Good friggin' morning from New England, folks, and welcome back to episode 19 of the So New England podcast. I am your host, Ian Brownhill, joined by my co-host and birthday boy, Robert Travisano, and of course, behind the cameras, on the production side, all things Life's Better in New England, we've got Vincent Guarneri. Guys, we have a very special guest for you. Honestly, a very inspiring one. So, without further ado, RJ, why don't you give us our wonderful introduction for our guest today?
Here we go. Today's guest will definitely have you LOLing on God, no cap. Maybe LMAOing, Bible, or even some people's personal faves, ROTFLing. And no, that does not mean Riz on the full, ladies. No, okay, fine. You're right. I'm done. I'll stop. Okay, my bad. I will start you off with this joke. What do you get when you have three besties who bring people all around New England together to share their love for the culture? Just kidding, but you're right. It's not a joke. That's not a joke. That's just what we do. And we are going to do just that. Episode 19 is here, and we have a guest lined up whose jokes are straight up BUSS'n. Okay, that was my last one, I swear. With 500,000 followers between TikTok, IG, and YouTube, this comedian is so on brand and truly one of a kind. But I will say, our guest and I already have a little beef.
Oh, boy.
Apparently, somebody has a little bit to say about guys who are in banking.
Oh,
and for all of my loyal 3,007 followers on TikTok, 780 on Instagram, I don't even know. I was in banking for 8 long years, and no, I don't have a Coke problem. No, I don't own any boat shoes, and no, I don't have a JP Morgan Chase bag. Whether she's trying to decipher the difference between youth verbiage and sound effects, or just trying to make you smile and laugh by the means of her very own special, check it out, links in the bio. Our guest is guaranteed to do just that. It is my absolute pleasure and honor to welcome comedian, writer, and nacho enthusiast, Connecticut's very own Shannon Fiedler.
What an intro.
I got you.
Can you write all my intros? Man.
I will come on stage and do them.
This is like becoming his passion to do these incredible intros.
I have so much fun digging into your social media content.
Oh, thank you.
And honestly, the fact that he pulled back and called back all of those things from your special was very impressive.
You remembered more than I did.
Well, it was very fun to watch and listen. I would say half watch because I was in my car for a lot of it because I've been driving around a lot lately. But listening is more important in the comedic 100%. World. But I thoroughly enjoyed it, and you gave me a lot to write about. But I also didn't want to put too much because you should just go watch it.
They should.
That's the point.
I have to agree with you that everyone should go watch it.
100%. Shannon, welcome on to the So New England podcast. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I love New England.
Yes, you do. And honestly, just to clarify off the front, folks, this is how I got connected. I obviously make New England-based content. I do my Boston accent, even though I'm a Rhode Island guy. I love to poke fun at the stereotypes. So it was really hard to ignore you because the minute your videos came up, everyone started tagging me. They're like, Ian, you got to see this girl. And I was like, fantastic. I love this so much. So you do an incredible job.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself for all the people who might be new.
For sure, yeah. So I'm a comedian and content creator and all those many hyphenate things. But I think where most people know me originally is from let me take that back because I misspoke. I think where most people know me from is social media, and people that I started in the pandemic. I was doing stand-up first, which most people also don't know. But over the pandemic, I was like, I miss making people laugh. I'm not in comedy clubs. What can I do? And I was like, well, I guess I could try TikTok. And at the time, so like, I don't know how old you guys are. I'm 32. So
32.
Okay.
He just turned 33
Listen here,
today.
young lady.
Okay. I'm so
all right.
But so I don't know if you felt this way, Ian, but like when did you start doing TikTok?
2019 I started.
Oh, okay. You were pre-pandemic.
Yeah, I was pre-pandemic.
Okay, so
I started early.
You were a really early adopter.
Yeah, and it was really because I was trying to advance my acting career. There was no content career intended.
Right, there wasn't.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's so interesting because I started as an actress. I moved to New York after I graduated college. I was like, I'm going to be an actress. And then I was like, this is a really hard life. And then I started writing and then eventually found stand-up. And then I was like, okay, this is what I like to do. But I was an early enough adopter in 2020 of TikTok that most people I knew, AKA people that were like millennials, weren't on TikTok yet.
Right.
So I was like, I'm not really embarrassed to put anything on here because nobody's going to see it.
Right.
And so I like had one video about like Carrie Bradshaw like do like kind of well. At the time I was like, I'm famous. And now I look at it, I'm like, that's a bad video. But then I was like, I had this bit in my stand-up about growing up in Connecticut and dating in Connecticut and like how stupid that is. And it's in the special now and I don't tell it anymore. But I was like, well, what if I tried to make this into something that felt more like TikTok? And I started to like try and tell the jokes and it felt weird. I was like, well, what if I just become Connecticut girl? And honestly, then this whole like Shannon cinematic universe was born, basically.
Right. It only takes one video.
It takes one video.
Yeah.
And it was like at the time I was living in New York still. And so I did Connecticut because that's where I was from. And then I was like, well, if they like Connecticut girl on a date, I could do Manhattan woman on a date.
Right.
So I did that. And then I was like, oh, they liked that too. And then I was like, well, I went to college in Vermont. And then I know a lot of people in Boston. And I was scared because that was my first accent that I attempted. And I was like, they're going to kill me if I get it wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And then it all kind of came from there.
They kill you if you get it right.
Yeah.
There's no winning with Boston.
Exactly.
With Boston folk, especially the OGs who have the real accent or, from Southie or Eastie and stuff like that. Those are the...
It is tough, though.
Yeah.
Like, I joke and I try and poke fun at him and do his.
But once you
so
get
bad.
It's really what it is.
Just drop in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I curse on this podcast?
Oh, yes,
Okay.
Of course. Go for it.
It's New England.
Say whatever the fuck you want.
Do you have, for your accent, a phrase that you use to drop in?
Not really.
Okay.
I feel like I've done it so much now that it's just kind of like second nature. And I feel like the humor behind what my accent is that I deliberately exaggerate.
For sure.
So most Boston accent people, let's say if there's a 10-word sentence, it's usually only 3 to 4 words. I make it all 10, which is what really pisses people off.
But that's what's fun about it.
Exactly.
But I, whenever I'm doing, because now I do like all over the country characters. And so keeping the accent straight, like sometimes I'll be talking in one and drop into another. So I have like a phrase for each girl that just like gets me back on track.
Gotcha. Okay.
And for Boston, it's always Tom Brady, fuck you.
Yeah.
I know where I am. So there's all these clips of me like with my front facing camera, like, and it's just me saying that on repeat. Like I could make like a 30-minute compilation video of just that line.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's so funny. So obviously, let's talk a little bit about your acting career then, because I saw that you had some experience. Was it SVU? Am I right?
Yeah.
SVU. I saw that back in the day on your IMDb page.
Yeah, I was a bit of a child actor.
Oh, okay.
Not in like a creepy way.
Yeah.
I always feel like I had like my parents are very good parents.
Right.
Like,
Just to
need to
clarify,
set the
not
stage.
that side of Hollywood.
Exactly. I'm an only child, and I like had a proclivity for it. I loved it, and so they were supportive of it. But it was very much like something I did extracurricularly. Like I still went to school and everything. But yeah, so I did it as a kid. I was in an indie movie when I was like 6. That was my first. I did like commercials. And then I was in 2 Weeks Notice with Sandra Bullock and Hugh Grant. I have 2 lines. I'm the cookie girl, but that was like the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
And then I did an episode of SVU in high school. Those were sort of like the big things. And then, commercials and whatever here and there. But
how did the other schoolmates feel about that? Were you like the kid for a while?
I think when I was like in elementary and middle school, I don't know that they knew. Like it wasn't
fair.
something. I think sometimes I would like say something about it. My mom would be like, "Don't do that. They're not gonna like you." Like when 2 Weeks Notice came out, and again, I like literally 2 lines, and one of them I think got cut, and. But my grandfather like rented out a local theater, and like all my friends and family came, so like the
That's
close
super
people
cool.
in my life knew.
Yeah.
And then I think SVU was in high school and people watched that, so people definitely knew. But I was also like a theater kid, so they were like, "This tracks, like you are."
It makes sense.
Yeah.
That was one of the coolest things. So like after that, like 18, 19, you're out of high school and you're kind of figuring stuff out. I always found it really cool to find, because we had not many in our high school besides you do anything on the big screen, or even just going to do any kind of extra work. Because I know I used to make it a point for anything he did to find him.
Yeah, you got
anything he did, whether it was Jumanji or the Ford documentary you did.
The History Channel
I
one,
watched that
That's
documentary like this. Where is
As you
that?
should.
And it was so cool. So when
My
I
hype man right there.
see other people
You need
that
'em.
we now know, like, because being what, quick math, 14 years out of high school. Like, someone has had to have done something more, you know. Sorry. It's my birthday today. I feel extra old. And it's such an ugly number. Okay, not about me. We're here about you. So, does it ever like make you feel like, that's cool, I feel good about it, you know?
Like, it's a cool experience to have had, for sure. I mean, you know, like, being on set is just like the most amazing thing. You're
it
kind
really
of
is.
like,
Yeah.
I can't believe all these people are working together, and like to have seen that at a young age, I think is just cool. It gave me like a really false sense of security when I moved to New York at 22, and I was like, I'm gonna be famous because like I was in SVU, and they were like, so is literally every other actor in New York City, so it doesn't matter. So that was like kind of a, like, I kind of went in not realizing, because when you're a kid, there's less competition, and when you're like a kid, all you really have to do is like know how to read your lines and like be like kind of cute. You don't have to be an actor in the same way.
Right.
And so I think I went in with this like false sense of it'll be easy because it was easy then. And then suddenly I was up against so many more people with like insane training and just like trying to,
imagine.
It was just totally different. And I think that was why in the end I was like, I need a break from this. But now I found my way back, which is just like crazy and cool.
Yeah, it is kind of cool how that came full circle for you.
It's wild.
And it is always funny just to relate to the situation is like in the competitive nature being here in a Rhode Islander. You know, when I was very active trying to make an acting career come to life, I would go to New York City and obviously Boston. And Boston is like a booming area, especially pre-COVID. It has slowed down a little bit, but it's still pretty busy.
It's great.
But, you know, when the casting call goes out in Boston, all of the guys show up. So the casting call is we're looking for a 5'8" male with brown hair and blue. We're all there.
They're all there.
That's it. It's all of Boston.
Exactly.
It's like, you know, Bumble and Tinder's worst nightmare.
Yeah, exactly.
So every Southie kid from everywhere shows up. But
Swipe.
you know, but so it is, you know, hyper competitive. So I think what I would like to know about is at what point did you hit necessarily a pivotal moment for your career where you were like, okay, I love acting. I'm passionate about it. But also this comedy thing is really good. And I the jokes are good. Like, because we've had another comedian on here before, we got some information. So I'm curious to hear, because obviously like I do comedic skits, but I'm not a comedian. So I'm curious, like where it was for you, how you bridge that gap.
That's such a good question. The thing that's crazy is it happened 6 years apart.
Okay.
Kind of. So what happened was, this is like the longer winded version of it. So I moved to New York. I tried to be an actor for like, I would say a year and a half. I was like committed. But what I realized is that the thing I was doing the least of was acting. I had like 6 part-time jobs, because when you go to be an actor, they're like, you can't have a full-time job because you need flexibility. And then I was like, for what? Like I've had like one audition. Like I could have said it was on lunch break or something.
Right.
And so I was like, I sold jeans at Bloomingdale's, which was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I don't recommend. I like tutored for like the SAT. I like interned for no money at like 3 different casting agencies. I babysat. I just was like, and I was running around. I was literally walking like 12 miles a day, just running around New York City, making no money and just like unhappy because all my weekends and nights were booked. So I didn't have like friends. Like I was just whatever. And so I was like, I'm not happy. I'm not acting. The thing about acting is you're always waiting for someone to say yes, to give you permission to act. And that's what's so great about TikTok and social media is you don't have to do that.
Right.
But that wasn't, people weren't, I mean, there were probably some people like the OG YouTubers at the time in 2014 that were doing that. But like at that point, if you wanted to do it, you needed to like make a short film. And I was like, I don't know how to turn on a camera. So I decided, because I had majored in college in theater and English with a focus in writing. And I was like, well, I still really like writing. I like had done magazine work before, so I tried that, and I ended up in advertising. And I actually loved advertising. I was a copywriter like Don Draper, you know?
Yeah.
And it also meant I was on set all the time, because you're making commercials and your work is getting produced so frequently because these brands have so much money. And I worked at like small places where like I got to direct a little bit. And it was really, I was like, maybe that's what I want to do. And I was loving it, and I was getting to write and make things that were oftentimes comedic. And then I was like, I kind of miss performing. And like truly on a whim, a friend told me, she was like, you remind me of Mrs. Maisel, which I was like, I've always wanted to try stand-up. So I took a class at this Comedy Cellar in New York, which is like the best of the best. And I like always say from day one, I was like, this is it. This is what I was supposed to do, because it's what I liked about it that was different than acting. And I still like acting, and I still hope for that to be part of my career. I really do. But the two things that I like about comedy are, one, you get to be yourself, which I kind of liked. And I got to like put on characters, but it was always me, versus like with acting, you're trying to disappear into a character. And I don't know, I guess I'm an attention hog, and I was like, I like being me.
Yeah.
I like when people look at me on stage. And then stand up, you have all the agency. I mean, you don't, there's gatekeepers, but like, especially in a place like New York, you can get on stage every single night if you're willing to go to an open mic. And
Right.
the only thing that's stopping you is if you don't write. And so I didn't have to wait for someone to cast me in something. And so I was like, I just felt like I was better suited for the lifestyle, as well as I think it is a better use of my talents. Like it combines them in a way that I think is just more interesting for me.
That's fantastic.
That's so
Thank
cool.
you.
love that.
Do you so you feel more fulfilled because you can write and then perform it?
I do, yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Because I even with acting, I always wanted to be in musicals, but I'm not like a great singer. But I always was a dancer my whole life. And like I actually liked sometimes the dancing more, because it was just like I was me and I was on stage and all this stuff, and stand-up feels more like that. There's like a rush to it. And I like that I get to say my own words and my thoughts, and it just feels like I have full ownership, which sometimes I don't like. Sometimes I'm like, I'd kill for a partner, but
Yeah.
there is something nice about like soup to nuts. Like I get to make the choices.
And that's what's really interesting to me as well with the acting stuff, is the fact that, you know, because you're so multi-talented in so many different ways, there are always going to be phases in which your talents are you're going to want to shine in one thing, singing, comedy, dancing, whatever it is. And when you have the type of talents that you have, it's really cool that you can dive into that. And I think for me, that is why I like TikTok, is because I can do all of those things on my schedule, the way that I want them, writer, director, producer, editor. It's just my visions coming to life. And that's what's always really intimidated me about theater and film acting in general. Because of my creative mind, I've never butted heads with a director, but anytime I've done a film or something like that, and they're like, this is like the next move, in my mind, I'm like, that does not feel like their next move. But I'm looking at 50 people behind the camera who are expecting me to make that move. And I'm like, okay, on the fly, how do I make this feel authentic to me? Because I don't want to go against you, but I don't think this is the right character choice.
Yeah.
I also don't think it makes sense in this scene. Like, it's difficult.
I think when you're not working with the best collaborators, like not that they're not smart people, but like when you don't have a good collaboration, when you're not Matt Damon and Ben Affleck,
Yeah.
to use a New England reference, I think like
Did she point at us? Are
I was
you
gonna say-
Matt Damon, Ben Affleck?
100%.
You
Wow,
guys can choose
fantastic. Love
I'm
that for you.
definitely Matt.
um,
Matt's way more of a dick.
I don't think you have watched Ben Affleck at all the last 2 years.
hot take.
He's going through it.
You see why?
Yeah.
I blame her. That's all I'm gonna say. My boy Ben's a gem.
Fair enough. But
Thank you for the compliment.
Sorry, just completely derailed you.
Yeah.
This is why it's dangerous for us to have a podcast.
Yeah,
We just will
exactly.
derail everyone from their
As you
thoughts.
should. That's what people listen to podcasts. Are you kidding me? No, but I think like sometimes that's where things like I notice it now. I don't know if you ever do, but like when I watch stuff, I watch it kind of clinically now because I can see behind the scenes and I know how it got written and all that. And sometimes I watch something and I'm like, I can see how good the original creator's idea was, and I can see where the studio had notes, and I can see where the director had a change and where the actor made a choice. And it's like when collaboration works at its finest, there's nothing better than like an ensemble cast where everyone is amazing and they bounce off each other. But sometimes I think too many opinions dilutes a central theme. And so that is what's great about TikTok is you get a chance to be like, this is my thing. And if you don't like it, don't stay. And that is kind of nice too.
And the flip side of that, just so that we don't make it seem like it's all, sunshine and rainbows, the bad side is when you're someone like myself who has a sensitive ego.
Oh my God.
And leans into narcissism in some capacities, it makes me a control freak.
Yeah.
So now I often think I would have made a better decision in that scene. I would have done that.
Oh, it's awful.
So that makes it like difficult. So there is a part of me that also feels nervous about trying to get back on set because I'm like,
Yeah.
I've been so much in control. Am I going to be able to let up so that I can let go into my acting and my scene and my character? And that stuff, that makes me nervous too. But
I feel that.
anyway, so actress, comedian, TikToker, but let's talk about Connecticut.
Woo!
So you're born and raised in Connecticut.
Yeah.
What part of Connecticut you
through and
from?
through. So I grew up in Fairfield County
Okay.
till like 13 or so, and then we moved up to Granby, which is near Hartford.
Near Harvard, yep.
It's like where the airport is.
Yeah.
It's like cows. It's not the Connecticut that we all make fun of.
Right.
But then I went to high school in Connecticut, and then my family's in Rhode Island now. And Rhode Island. Listen, I love Connecticut, but like Rhode Island is the best, the hidden gem of the United States. But I am Connecticut through and through.
Say that. Can you say that one part one more time about the hidden gem thing? I need to hear it one more time.
Rhode Island is the hidden gem of the United States.
Love that.
And let me tell you, every time I bring it up, my Rhode Island neighbors are like, "Stop! We don't want anyone else to come."
Literally.
Yeah.
We have no room.
Yeah,
We
they were
have
like,
no
"We're
houses
done."
left. Please, for
We
the love
tried
of
to
God.
break
Get
the
out.
bridge. to keep people out,
$500,000 for a ranch, 2-bedroom.
Yeah,
Like
It's a little
900
much.
square
It's
feet is
crazy.
nauseating.
It's
I can't.
crazy.
yeah. So I work and live in Connecticut, so I
Okay.
get a lot of backlash because I try and
From
stay,
me personally.
Well, that too. Yeah, that's different. That's more like self-harm. So I encourage it. No, so it's tough because I don't love it, but I also don't hate it.
Yeah.
But I can see where a lot of people like. Sometimes I'm driving and I'm like, get out of my way, and then
Yeah.
I look at the license plate. I'm like, you motherfucker.
Oh wait.
Go back to Connecticut with that, staying in the left lane, going the mile speed
Oh
limit.
my God.
Like, stop.
They really do that there.
Yeah.
It's
And
crazy.
I get yelled at work because they're all from Connecticut. And they're like, no, it's definitely Rhode Islanders. I'm like, Rhode Islanders are in a rush to go
Yeah.
nowhere.
Yeah.
There's 4 minutes from here to there, and it's usually Dunkin'.
Yeah.
So no one's,
Very true.
we're all rushing to get there because the
Yeah.
last
Very
trip of coffee
You need it.
is going to be taken.
Yeah.
So,
No, it's funny that you do that because honestly, my intention was to, for once, try and give Connecticut a good name, and you just
You know
immediately derailed it.
clip
never
that.
So Shannon,
clip that.
if you
Go
don't,
back. Damn it.
if you don't mind, I would love to hear from your perspective about Connecticut as to why it's a good state.
Listen, Connecticut rules, and I will stand by this. And it's like, sometimes I feel like it's like a dirty word. Like when I tell people I'm from Connecticut, they'll be like, I'm like, here's the thing. Like, I didn't grow up in Old Greenwich. You know what I mean? But I
Right.
think obviously the stereotype is that everyone from Connecticut is like Westport, New Canaan, whatever. And there's plenty of that, you know?
Right.
It's funny because what's cool about Connecticut is that, and maybe this is why the rest of New England hates us, but we sort of straddle the line between New England and New York. Everyone knows that. Like
Right.
sports teams, you could be one or the other. You can do that. And just like general demeanor is somewhere in between like New York and Boston, because there's
Yeah.
so much similarities between those two cities, but there's also so much differences. And Connecticut is somewhere in the middle, and then also just like in pastels. So it's just like, I don't know, you get flavor of both.
Right.
It doesn't, I don't know. It's a good place to live. It's
Yeah.
you get all the New England charm. You get the foliage. You get the little like, mom and pop cideries.
Right.
But then you also get that like influx from New York. So you get a little bit of that more like urban metropolitan kind of vibe too.
Right. And you know what's unique too is, and I will say this, is Connecticut reminds me kind of a mix of, it's weird to say Boston and the rest of Massachusetts,
No,
but
but
it's
you're
kind of
right.
what it is. It's like Boston, the rest of Massachusetts, and Rhode Island.
You're right.
It's like a smaller
100%.
compact version of both states, because if you are in Mystic, if you are on the coastline there, if you're going up into Niantic, there are coastlines, there are beaches. It is
Right.
very beautiful. It is
Yeah.
very Rhode Islandy.
Yeah.
And there is an influx of money. So there are these cute, quaint little towns that have these mansions and that are
Yeah.
really nice. But then you have Hartford, which is a pretty populated, busy
Right.
city that's got a lot to offer.
Mhm.
Of course, you have the New Yorkers, but there is plenty of country too,
Yeah.
with mountains
Yeah.
and, like you said,
So like where I grew up in Granby is like, because then I went to college in Vermont, and it's,
Right.
I mean, I will say just another New England shout out. I was in Italy last month, and we went to Tuscany, and I told my husband, I was like, I have a hot take. I think Vermont is prettier than Tuscany. And he was like, he's like, you're out of your mind.
Clip that.
Oh,
No,
my Lord. We have our first
will.
clip of the
Let
night.
me tell you, this is a hill I will die on. Vermont is the prettiest place I have been to in this world. Maybe like the Caribbean, fine. Like that's a different vibe. But like Vermont.
Wow.
Stunning.
Wow.
I
Love
love
that.
Vermont.
Not much to do there.
City of the
but
Sticks.
Really
That
beautiful.
contrast last week.
Yeah, we did.
Tell
We
Noah
had that.
Khan I said that.
Yeah. Wow, what a hot take there.
That's
That's
a good
Hot.
one.
It's on fire.
Yeah.
That take is
Woo.
flaming.
Woo.
So then when it comes to these accents and these
Yeah.
different characters that you play then,
Yeah.
where did you come up with like the Minnesota
Yeah.
and all these other, because like,
Yeah.
you know, as we spoke before we started recording, I mean, I only have my New England experience. So that's like where it comes from. But have you spent time in these other states? And
So I have a rule for myself that I won't create a character if I don't have a like very close connection that is connected to that place. Like somebody
Gotcha.
that I could text at like 4 p.m. on a Wednesday when I'm making a video and ask them like the most insanely specific question about that
okay.
place. Because otherwise it's just going to read like, you know, like a BuzzFeed article that's like 15 things that are only in your state. And it's like, you know, obviously you want to mention those things, but you also want to get like with Boston, for example, like obviously I'm going to talk about the Pats, I'm going to talk about Duncan, but it's also like knowing about Rotary and the Packy and like
Right.
just the general anger of people in Boston and like getting the
Hell yeah.
mentality right. So
Passion.
my husband's from Minnesota. So that
Oh,
was,
okay.
Minnesota was like my first foray outside of New England. And he lived in Chicago for a while. So he's sort
Gotcha.
of my,
Oof.
and he knows people
Yeah.
who live there still. So that's where those come from. And then like, a good friend of mine moved to Colorado, so I was able to like do that. And like some places are a little bit easier because even they have an aura about them in addition to like what you would know. So like
right.
I don't claim to know Columbus, Ohio, because I don't know anything about that. But like I knew where I was starting from with Colorado. I was
Right.
like, this girl smokes a lot of weed. She's always hiking. She's
Right.
very chill. Now give me more specifics and more about like, because to me it's not just being able to name check things, but getting their personality right. And I think that's why people like these characters,
Yeah.
because there's more of just like this is the kind of person in addition to like, let me use all the like local slang. So yeah, but I won't do, like people ask me all the time, like, will you do, you know, Atlanta? And I'm like, I don't know anyone who lives there. So
Right.
no, because it
Really hard to do.
it won't be good. You guys
Yeah.
will be like, this is bad. And I'll be like, correct. So
Right. It would go viral for the wrong reason.
exactly. It'd be like,
Death threats.
New England girl knows nothing about Atlanta.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
So then do you have a favorite character?
So it's like picking a favorite child. I do. Okay, so I always say Boston and New Jersey are my favorites.
Yeah,
'Cause
the
they're
Jersey
just,
one's
like,
great. I love your New Jersey one.
Thanks. They're just so not like me in real
Yeah.
life. Like they're so brash and like.
Yeah.
Also, I think the accents, while I was scared of them when I started, because I was like, I don't want to get them wrong, they help you get into the character.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's just such an obvious change. I think Boston is probably my favorite though.
That's all.
She's just like so, and like the audience loves her. Also, I talk about them like they're different people.
Right.
Like it's, I'm kind of nuts, but
There's a word for that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, crazy. But then I think New Jersey is fun too because
Yeah. I'm gonna go.
the Jersey one actually has very little to do, not very little, but it has a lot less to do with actually New Jersey and just more to do with being Italian. And
Yeah.
I am Italian, so
That's
that feels
fair.
kind of like a love song to my family and
Yeah.
how insane we all are. So that's fun too.
So I'm going to kind of bring this to a circle here then. So
Oh, it's a circle.
Vermont is more beautiful than Tuscany.
Yes.
You grew up in Connecticut, but you
Yeah.
love Rhode Island
Yeah.
and you're an Italian girl.
Yeah.
So then give me your take on Rhode Island Italian food.
Okay.
Because we're pretty like cocky about it. Are we
So
not?
you
Like
are.
Oh yeah.
Like we had
Yeah.
Federal Hill and we're like, oh, we got the fucking mob bosses in Cianci. I fucking tell you, like,
gotta love Bettah.
yeah, it's like all of, you know, a lot of Rhode Island's personality is being Italian. And I'm Irish.
Yeah.
He is Italian. You have some Italian and Irish in you.
Yeah.
I'm Italian.
You have Irish in you too, though.
Negative.
Good friggin' morning from New England, folks. This episode of the So New England podcast is brought to you by Iggy's RI.
Iggy's RI serves their award-winning clam cakes, chowder, doughboys, and more at two beautiful locations. one in Narragansett, and one in Warwick, Rhode Island.
If you're visiting the Oakland Beach location, don't forget, Iggy's Boardwalk is a full-service restaurant. They also have Iggy's Creamery. But in case you missed a taste of home, don't forget, Iggy's RI ships worldwide on Goldbelly, right to your front door.
Iggy's also offers catering for your next event, as well as their very own food truck, bringing their Rhode Island tradition directly to you.
For more questions, visit iggy'sri.com. And remember, folks, it's always summer at Iggy's. So then tell me your opinion on the Rhode Island food.
So I don't have a good opinion because my family lives in South County. And South County has a dearth of Italian food. There's actively bad pizza, and I don't understand it.
It's rough out there.
South County might be the most boring part of Rhode Island.
Oh,
true.
that's an opinion. That one I might not agree with, but I need to explore more of Providence because I think the Italian food here has just got to be
it's the
unreal.
hidden gems, the old places that you never thought about, like Twin Oaks.
Yeah.
Sienna's actually got really good food, but it all depends sometimes.
Yeah, Sienna's
I
good.
gotta
Twin
try
Oaks is
them out
great.
more.
Yeah.
So the hill has kind of gone downhill, but like Venda Ravioli is like probably the most popular in the square there.
Okay.
Go ahead.
What? Massimo Panevino?
There it is. He'll tell you. He'll tell you. He'll tell you all the
list
good
of
food
10.
spots.
I know the good ones.
Okay.
But yeah,
I'm gonna have to give it a
So
shot.
yeah, so
Have you ever heard
when
of
you do, you gotta let us know.
I will.
Olive Garden?
Oh, my favorite.
That's my
Just
favorite.
kidding. I've actually
Unlimited
never been
soup,
to
salad,
an
and
Olive
breadsticks.
Garden.
I literally just fell for that. You've got to be kidding. That's like in Friends. Are you a Friends fan?
Oh, yeah.
So you know when Phoebe goes Nestle Toll House,
Yeah.
and Micah goes Nestle Toll House.
Yes.
Oh
It's
my
insane.
god! Literally, that is the same thing that just
That
happened to me. That's embarrassing.
That was amazing.
Good, because I need content for my TikTok. All 3,007 of you. I love you guys so
So then
much.
let's get it back to the fact that you think it's an opinion that South County is not the most.
Oh, I think
Are we
it's
on our
great.
first-
So we're from Westerly.
Okay.
So we kind of grew up in
That is
South
South
County.
County.
So that's
Yeah.
why I'm like, of all right, this is another thing too. I know I'm like the Rhode Island guy.
Yeah.
I don't find Rhode Island that entertaining.
Oh,
Yeah.
my God.
But
So
we grew up by
sad.
the beach, so like it's one of those things when you grow up like on the beach,
Yeah.
you want the mountains. You grow up in the mountains, you want the
Yeah.
beach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rhode Island is just like, and here's the thing. My wife questions me this all the time. I'm always like, it's boring. She's like, what do you want to
Yeah.
do? And I'm like, I don't know, but I want options. She's like, but tell me what,
Yeah.
because we probably have it, but you just want it to be like on a silver platter handed to you. And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, well, here's my thing on Rhode Island. The beaches are, I'm such a beach girl. So, like,
Okay.
the beaches are hugely important for me.
Yep.
So before we started coming to Rhode Island, we would go to Cape Cod in the summer.
Okay.
And then also living in New York, I haven't been very frequently, but I've spent some time in the Hamptons. And they're wildly different, Cape Cod and the Hamptons, and I prefer Cape Cod by like a long shot. I don't like the Hamptons that much, but both of those places are so busy, so crowded. You can't get anywhere in the summer. It's just like overwhelmed. The Hamptons particularly, but Cape Cod a little bit too. There's like a little bit of like a sceniness where it's like
Right.
you're not really going out without like being accessorized. Like when I'm in Rhode Island, I like genuinely don't brush my hair for like 6 weeks. And I'm like, that's fine. Like
Yeah.
nobody cares. We're just here to like be on the beach and eat fresh seafood and like surf and just have a good time. And so
Gotcha.
and maybe also part of it too is like I lived in New York City for 10 years and that is the opposite of Rhode Island. So it was
Yeah.
like such a nice respite of just like there's nothing going on and that's kind of what I like. Like my mom would
Yeah.
always be like, do you want to go like to a bar? And I'm like, no, I want to sit on the deck
Yeah.
for like hours. So yeah, I don't know.
peace
I
and
like
quiet.
that. I just think it's so pretty.
It is very,
And,
it is
like-
very
Yeah.
beautiful for 3 months.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's fair. That is fair.
I think that's really the problem
fall's
is
great.
the fall is good. We've got some cider places. We've got
Yeah.
like, I mean, I say cider places, but we got like, apple mills and
Yeah.
orchards and places to kind of do stuff. But I don't know. I think it's just, I get like tired and bored of it, but I'm
That's
also
fair.
kind of like a
You've
bit,
been here for a long time.
yeah, I'm a bit of like
He
an
needs
introvert in
change.
that way. Yeah. I like change. I like to,
Yeah.
Like
I want
growing
to
up-
travel more. I want to
Yeah.
do that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
But-
I was
Yeah,
gonna
that-
say because growing up, the bedroom, everything, every couple of weeks it was changed.
Oh,
Bed was in a
really?
different spot.
Yeah, I always
that
switch my
corner,
bedroom.
This corner,
I'd get home and be like,
sometimes
That's
it'd be on the
really interesting.
ceiling.
It's like time to change the bedroom.
I need
around.
that mirror in there. One day it was painted, 3 different colors. It was crazy.
I
You
love
got to
it.
try different colors. You never know what you're gonna
Yeah.
like.
I love that. Yeah, I feel that. I feel for me it's not like I didn't grow up here,
Right.
but I imagine if I did it could feel claustrophobic because it's a small state. We know this.
Right.
So
Yeah.
then, hold on a second. Does your food allegiance lie in Connecticut?
Compared to what?
New England.
Like my food allegiance?
Yeah.
I mean,
Connecticut is a part of New England.
listen,
technically.
Connecticut.
So
No, I know. I'm
Like,
saying the
is
rest
that
of
where
New
I
England.
I think
the best
technically it
of-
would be.
Listen, Connecticut.
Do you prefer New England food or do you prefer New York food?
No.
Connecticut's
Hold
got
on.
good food.
Let me rephrase this then. Do you prefer Connecticut food over the other 5 states?
Yes. I gotta
Hold
say-
on. Let me just clarify. And you don't just mean pizza. You mean food as a whole.
I think I might. I don't, because you get a little bit of all of it, you know? Okay, Connecticut pizza is outstanding.
100%.
It is
No
really
one can
good.
argue
Okay,
that.
fine. But
Yeah.
explain to me the clam pizzas thing. What
Oh,
is?
I don't do that.
Okay.
I don't fuck with that.
Because like I
get,
I
like,
can't
cheese.
wrap my head around that.
Yeah,
And Rhode Island's got a
that's-
lot of weird foods.
Yeah.
Okay, Rhode Island does have some weird freaking foods.
We do, yes.
Okay, my hot take is, listen, Rhode Island has amazing seafood, as does Massachusetts, but like so does Connecticut. We are also on the shore.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? And I do think you get a little bit more of that like New York influence, which has
Yeah.
like, so I think if you want like, you know, different kinds of food, like I haven't found really good Asian food in Rhode Island
Yeah,
yet.
that's fair.
But like you can kind of walk into a lot of like random Thai places in Connecticut and like you're going to get a good dish, you know?
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I feel like you get a little more variety in Connecticut because of the New York influence. And I'm sure like outside of Boston, you probably get that too, just because of the city. But what was I saying? I don't even know.
we were
Rhode
talking
Island
about Connecticut
specific-
food, seafood is what you were saying.
Seafood.
Yeah,
Seafood.
you
Oh,
started
Hot take.
I don't like stuffies.
Ooh.
Wow.
I mean, I eat them.
You know
but,
what?
Like,
That's
I don't
not-
ask for them by name.
Yeah, no, that's
as much
kind
as
of-
that is a hot take, that is stuffies are definitely a 50-50
Well,
They're
can
just
thing.
we-
like
it-
a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And not much.
You got to be somewhat. You like. You have to be. That's more like a food for that. Like bridges the gap between people who don't really
Don't
like seafood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's like more like when you put so much
Yeah.
breading, and if you do it the Portuguese way or the Italian
Yeah.
way, like there
Yeah.
are a little. You know, there are
Yeah.
definitely things to it.
They're a thing.
So then, go ahead.
I was going to say, so then you love Rhode Island.
Yeah.
Do you, 3 all the way?
What was it? What's that?
3 all the way?
Oh, I don't know what that means.
Okay.
I guess
See,
I don't know
once
enough.
again, I like just
No, it's okay.
Oneyville hot wieners.
You're going to learn some shit.
What's that?
You've never had? Okay, so
Yeah.
we're gonna.
Okay, now I'm excited.
Okay. Food master,
So-
wiener master, please go ahead.
As the wiener master, I feel no. So, do you know what is it? I don't know where it is. I just need to go there. It's one of those things.
Oneyville.
No, I
What are you saying?
never mind. Do you know where Oneyville is? It's like a little suburb in Providence, literally like
Oh,
a little
okay,
street.
Straight
Sure.
over it, yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
so there's a little
Yes.
hole in the wall spot,
Yeah.
Oneyville, New York Systems, and their go-to is hot wieners. You get 3 all the way. That's usually the go-to meal.
Okay.
With a coffee milk.
Now I do know coffee. milk.
Okay.
Okay.
All
yeah.
right.
I was gonna say because you've quoted
Into
coffee
coffee.
milk in your
Yeah.
videos before. So
Say
I
that
know-
again.
Yeah.
One more time.
Coffee.
coffee. Is that what I said?
You did. You really did.
Let's go.
You
so
really
good there.
just
Finally, a
threw it
Rhode
out.
Island accent.
Yeah. it
That's
came
what I
out.
get roasted for the most in the comment section. Dude, this is fucking Boston. No one talks like this in Rhode Island. I'm like, oh, sorry.
Well, I do Rhode Island girl because I love
Right.
it here. But
Yeah.
like
you do a
different-
great Rhode Island
Oh,
accent.
thank
Yeah,
you,
no,
'cause
you
I
do.
It
stress
is really
about it.
difficult to like
They're so,
flip between the two.
So similar.
Right.
And I get nervous.
But you know what? I think that happens to be because you lived in Connecticut.
Yeah.
So you heard the New York accent
Yeah.
and you've heard the
it is
Boston
kind
accent.
of a combo.
Exactly. And
It's
I never really
weird.
got, I mean, I grew up in Rhode Island, so you think
Right.
I would know it, but
Right.
I never really got much of the New York
not
accent,
from
which is
Westerly,
That's a
though.
good point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
not in Westerly.
Yeah.
You
Westerly,
wouldn't
we're
get
like
there.
very, Westerly is so weird. It's like,
it's niche.
Yeah, it
it's
is.
a very niche area
sure.
of Rhode Island.
Because if you
Taylor
really
Swift.
think about it,
Yeah.
if you really think about it, it's Westerly, and then that's exit 1.
And then you're in
What's
New-
between-
Connecticut.
Exactly. What's between exit 2 through what is it now? What's your exit? 24?
Like, yeah, they changed it to
Nothing's
24.
going on.
Yeah.
Like
Exeter.
Exeter, West Greenwich.
Yeah.
Sick. What's out there?
That's farmland.
No offense,
Yeah,
but it's
no.
just trees.
Yeah.
Beautiful homes.
Right.
$1.2 million for
Right.
those, but I don't know. Just
Yeah.
saying.
There's not much
Nothing
going on.
there.
But yeah, so 3 all the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's also,
So
3 all the
3
way.
all the way. Hot wieners.
Hot wieners.
Mustard, chili, grilled onions, and a little bit of I always forget what this is. Seasoning, thank you. And then the extra special spice is the sweat from the guy's arm.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I love that.
also
So-
right on his arm.
Yeah.
Oh.
And you've never been over
No,
there.
but that sounds really good. I love hot
They are
dogs.
fantastic. I will
Wait.
say, do not put them in your car. Do not take them to
Oh,
go.
it'll
It will
smell
stink.
forever.
Like wear
Okay.
clothes that you don't want
Yeah.
to like.
That's so funny.
Yeah, like do it. Eat
Don't- you
there
don't wanna smell like a
on
hot dog
laundry day.
forever.
Like if you plan on doing laundry that night.
Don't put them in the laundry. Yeah, you gotta
Okay.
wash them right away.
Okay.
Or take them. those are good. We don't need those clothes anymore.
Yeah, just
those
throw
are the
'em out.
hand-me-downs that are gonna stay. Yeah, because
When we lived together,
Yeah.
and we lived right over here in Providence.
Okay.
This man got 3 all the way, probably times 2 because he was drunk.
usually
he was
4.
Hammering,
Usually 4 coffee milk and
he was hammering.
I would
those
get
bad
about
boys.
2.5 deep, and then I'm
But
like,
he
all
was,
right, I'm
but he
done.
was drunk. So when
Right.
he came home, not only did he have them in the house, but he left the box
Oh,
open on the counter.
Everywhere.
The whole
Oh,
apartment
yeah.
stunk. It was awful.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I can smell it now, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of my really good friends, Justin, introduced it to me, and it was one of those things like when it comes to food, anything that's not drugs.
Yeah.
Honestly, I have an addictive personality, especially for right around here. So when those first couple times they sat on the gullet, it was like, oh, this is great, and it just never stopped.
Wow. Okay, I'm gonna have to try it.
Yeah.
So what does your husband think then of New York? Because New England.
Yeah.
Since he's from Minnesota.
So he went to BC. So he's been.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he's got the.
I
experience.
didn't like pull him out of the Midwest.
All right.
He like ejected
You're
himself.
coming
Okay, so
with
then what do
me.
you think of
Yeah.
Minnesota?
It's lovely. I'm never leaving New England.
Minnesota.
And that was something like when we first started dating, I was like, just so you know, I have to live in New England
Yeah.
for the rest of my life. So
That's
like,
just how it goes.
If you want to move back to Minnesota, this has been great.
Yeah.
See you later.
See ya.
And he was, he lived here. He knows it. He likes
Right.
it. He loves Rhode Island as well.
That's awesome.
And you guys got married in Newport,
We
right?
We did. And
Awesome.
it was like
Yeah.
the best. We had the best time. Newport's just a beautiful spot to get married.
Yeah, of
It is.
course.
We got
was gonna
married the
say.
same weekend as the jazz festival, though, which was
Ooh,
stressful.
that's rough.
Yeah.
But it ended up being okay. But it was like, I was like, this is going to be the death of me. The jazz festival.
Well, it looks beautiful from
Thank
what
you.
you can see from what you shared.
Yeah, it was the best day. We got
That's
really
awesome.
lucky with the weather,
Yeah.
which you never know. So
Never know.
That can be
that
tough.
was very
It was
good.
raining most of the. I got married in July, and it was raining most
Okay,
of the morning.
congratulations.
Thank
wait,
you.
I did know that. That's
Yeah.
so fun.
So humid,
Yeah, that's tough.
rough.
That's
We
tough.
was sweating,
We were driven.
Yeah, that'll happen.
but we jumped in the ocean after, so that was
That was
so
a great
fine.
time.
very cool.
Yeah, that's great.
One of one.
Yeah.
Best wedding ever.
Hell yeah.
So
For
then,
now.
since you
For
have
now.
experience in other states, we'll get to this question early. If you could bring
Yeah.
another state to join us here in New England, and
What a
to
good
clarify,
question.
it means all the people,
Oh.
anything else that is involved in the economy there,
Mm.
the driving, the
Everything.
prices, the food, everything has to
All
come
that.
with it.
Everything.
All that.
Everything. The weather, if there's a coastline, if there's
Okay.
mountains, it all comes.
It all comes. Okay, and I'm adding it to New England.
Yep.
Let me think about this. And it's the whole state, not
The
just
whole
like
state.
a city.
Yeah, not just like a
That-
city.
That makes it tough. I mean, part of me, this isn't gonna be my answer. Part of me wants to say New York because, like, when I say New England, I include New York because being in Connecticut, the tri-state area,
Right.
Not New Jersey though. I don't include New Jersey.
Whoa.
There's something different. I know.
Fighting where
This
we
is a
got
hot
offended
take.
over here.
This is where Connecticut and Massachusetts do not align.
Right.
But then I'm like, yeah, New England, whatever. And people are like, no, you're in New York City. That's not New England. I'm
That
like,
is
whatever.
fair to say when you go out of New England.
Yeah.
Because people genuinely, geographically
They
do
don't
not
understand.
know.
They
Yeah.
don't
So that's fair.
understand that it's the 6 states.
Yeah.
What state would I bring? I mean, I've only been to Chicago and Illinois, but I really like Chicago, so I could. And they have really good hot dogs. They really do.
The deep dish pizza is
Yeah.
phenomenal too.
Oh, I
I
don't
went
know.
to Chicago
I'm
once.
skeptical
I
on that.
filmed. Oh my god, continue because I just blanked
Okay.
on who. What did I film?
I know it. I would bring Colorado. Colorado's awesome.
It is.
Colorado's great. I love to ski.
What part did you go to?
I was
Or-
like in Denver and then like
Yep.
some ski areas. I've
Okay.
only been twice, but
Oh.
both times that I've been, I was once in the summer and once in the winter. So I
Mm.
saw both sides. It would have to be a place that had seasons. I don't know
Yeah.
how people live somewhere.
It's
that doesn't have
weird, right?
seasons. My friend is from Vermont and she moved to California and she told me she no longer really has understands the concept of time. She'll be like, this thing happened. I don't know if it was like last month or 3 years ago because it's always the same. Like when I remember
Oh,
it.
that's
Oh, I didn't think
weird.
of that.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's wild.
No wonder why they're all weird out there.
Yeah,
that's
literally.
very strange.
No, I would bring Colorado. They got
Okay.
like a good vibe.
Yeah.
They could like fit in with like the Vermont.
Did you get to go to the mountains?
Yeah.
Isn't it
It's
wild?
amazing.
So I joke when we talk about this question a lot because I always say that if you're from New England, like yes, we have mountains.
Yeah, but not.
But
we
then
don't
when
have
you go to
mountains.
Colorado and you go to like the
Yeah.
western part, it's like okay, those are
Yeah.
mountains. Yeah,
it
it's
makes
crazy,
me
right?
rethink. I like look at my Vermont mountains. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
they're cute. What's the most popular answer so far?
We haven't had
the only double up state
Oh wow.
Florida.
was Florida.
Yeah,
The only double up
we've
state
had
was Florida.
Montana. We've had Vegas.
Oh,
Yep.
Someone said that they don't travel in the states a lot, but they go outside of the country. What'd she say?
Who was it?
Crap. I don't remember. I don't remember who said it.
Was it Camilla?
Maybe. That's what I was thinking.
Might have been Camilla. I don't remember, but
They brought something from a place from
Oh,
Europe.
cool.
So that was cool.
Yeah.
Really
She had
cool.
a good reasoning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. That's a good question.
Yeah, it's always kind of just like unique to see because
Yeah.
obviously some people have traveled more than
Yeah.
others, but
Right.
I think at first like people get excited because they're like, oh, bring me the California weather, but I'm like,
No.
everything's
Yeah.
got to come.
Then
Yeah.
you like California's too big.
Yeah.
It's too
It would
much.
overwhelm
Too
us.
much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. It's like
There's too
all
much.
of New England. Like,
It's all of everything.
yeah,
It's so
I'm not
big.
a fan.
I want to say Hawaii.
Ooh, yeah, you can say that.
I
So-
can say that.
Someone did
Colorado
say-
or
Someone did say
Hawaii.
that.
Those
Yeah,
Hawaii
that's
is
fair.
just like.
I think
It's a great question,
Kayla
right?
said
You like that
Hawaii,
question?
right?
Great
I'm
question.
gonna think about that.
Lovely
I'm
question.
gonna think about that all night.
It's a great question.
I could tell you
It's a great
I
question.
won't, but I could tell you which states I would not bring, and that would be an easier question.
That's
Oh,
a
yeah.
longer list.
Yeah. Well, we always joked because at first that question was proposed to bring a state to like
Yeah.
essentially add a seventh
Yeah.
because I didn't want to bring controversy.
Right.
And then he asked it like the first 3 times. All right, we're getting rid of Connecticut. What do you
Oh,
feel in the spot?
exactly. Oh, of course it is.
Oh yeah,
Oh, my
it was
God.
bad. It became too much of like, okay, we know you're gonna get rid of Connecticut, so let's just add it. So you've taught me this, and because I don't pay that much attention, but the fact that Connecticut is the tri-state,
Yeah.
that's what gets me. It's like, okay, you can't be
We're
tri-state
both.
and New England. It's
It's
not
kind of
fair.
annoying.
You can't
Yeah.
have both.
Right.
Yeah.
Selfish.
Yeah. It's
Okay.
a little pick me.
I have a question
Okay.
that I've been wanting to ask because you said your husband is from Minnesota.
Yeah.
So where does your sports team allegiance lie?
That's a good question.
Sorry, I've been
mean,
using allegiance
As a
lot today.
house.
as a house.
Yeah.
Because
As
that's
a
really what it
household.
comes down to.
Yeah.
Because if he's a Vikings fan and you're a Pats fan, it's like, all right, cool.
So
but
I-
who gets the dominance of the house when it comes to sports?
This is an opinion people aren't gonna like. I hate football. So I think like the household is a Vikings household.
Okay.
I
Okay.
would like to argue that my dad grew up in Fairfield County, so I'm all New York sports teams. Because I just grew up with him, yeah. So like Yankees, Rangers.
We gotta
And
add
you
that
take
to the
like
form.
2 steps forward and
Yeah,
then 2
and then I
steps
just
back.
come
I'm
right
like,
back.
I don't know where
Yeah,
because
exactly.
you love Rhode Island.
do.
Vermont is beautiful, but you're a New
I'm a
York
New
sports
York
fan,
sports
but you
fan.
don't like football, and you're a Vikings household.
I'm a mess.
What are you doing to us?
We
right
gotta
now?
add this to the form.
This,
If
you know
I
what it
do
is
this-
along with your
literally.
multi-talented, you just have multiple, personalities. I
Yeah,
guess is
exactly.
really what it comes down to, which is really good. Now, I think what we really need to focus on, now that we've gotten to know you more, we've talked a bit about your career, your interests in the New England region, and how you have very faulty lines of loyalty.
100%.
Let's talk about your special because, like,
Thank you.
this is really. I mean, I know it sounds like
Bring
a really
it all back.
Yeah, I want to
Bing,
bring it all
bing.
back just because I think it's so cool. I mean, like,
Yeah.
Thank you.
like
That's
I
awesome.
don't know you enough,
Yeah.
but like, you have a special.
Yeah, thank you.
That's
It feels
awesome.
so cool.
That
It
is
feels
so
great.
cool.
I appreciate that.
So tell us how that came down, how you came up with the name,
Yeah.
what was going through your mind when you were writing the jokes in the
Yeah.
audience. Like, I would love to know the
Oh,
whole
for
experience
sure.
top to bottom.
For sure. So the thing about your first special, this is my first special, and I think the thing about your first special in stand-up is you're just trying to build to 60 minutes. You're like, I got it. So there's a lot in that hour that's like really old material and stuff that I love. But I think the reason that I was like, I had been touring that hour for about a year, and I was like, I'm done with it, but I love it. And so I want to film it. I want to immortalize it. I want to have it somewhere because I'd been married for a year and I'm still telling jokes about dating. And I'm like, this feels inauthentic, but I like these jokes. I was also like 31 years old when we filmed it. And I'm like telling jokes about like going out drinking with your friends, which is like not something I don't ever do, but I wrote that joke when I was 27 and it was my weekend every weekend. So that was really fun to like look at when I was finally like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and make sure like this is the hour that I want it to be, and like look at all of these jokes I had written and been like, okay, these are the ones that work together and this is how they flow. And I have a relationship with a production company called Hoff Studios, and they're wonderful. And they wanted to do it with me, so we worked together, which was really nice and helpful because they produce stand up, so they knew things because I knew how to write a joke. And I knew how to do it on stage, but I was like, they were like, so we're gonna have these 8 cameras, and like, are you? And I was like, oh, okay, sure, like I trust you. I don't know. They're like, this is the audio mixer. I was like, okay, great. He sounds good, literally. Yeah, so it was so fun. And then I shot it in January of this year. So
And where did you
just
film
came
it?
out in the cutting room in New York.
In New York, okay.
Yeah, so it's a cool venue, and you do 2 shows, so that way if you like mess anything up and like you have coverage and like lots of angles and everything. So I think predominantly we use the footage from the Late Show because it's always the better show because the audience is a little bit drunker and more excited.
Hell yeah.
And you've shaken off all your rust because
Right.
you've literally just done it. So we use mostly the Late Show, and then we edited it for a while and we worked on it, and it's just like I'm so proud of it. And I said this at the beginning, but I think I've been so fortunate to like gain a fan base through social media. And I'm like, I love my fans. They're like, whenever I do a show and people come, they're like, you have the nicest fans. I'm like, I know, they're amazing. But so many of them, and I do tour the country, but limitedly. So many of them have never seen me do stand-up. A lot of them probably don't even know that I do stand-up. So I was just so excited to be like, here's an hour of this. And like, if you like it, there's more coming and you can see me on the road. And so that was just really fun.
Fantastic.
And, yeah.
That's so cool.
Well, RJ and I both, I mean, I watched it all today myself.
Yep.
I don't know if
Yeah.
if it was
No, I
just today,
finished it.
but like, so it's like very fresh. That's
Yeah.
why like, when I saw you, I was like, I feel like I've been staring at you all day.
Yeah.
So like, just
I
come give
love
me a
it.
hug because
I
I
love
feel like
it.
I know you.
Yeah, perfect.
But no, that's like really cool. And I
Thank
just,
you.
the way that you like, just from a feedback standpoint, your deliveries were great. Your energy was awesome. It was shot very well. I mean, you should
appreciate
definitely
it.
be very proud of yourself. I mean,
Thank you.
that was really cool. And, for me, having been mutuals with you for a while and watching the different creations you've done and then seeing like a different side of you
Yeah.
in that, I was like, oh, wow. Like
Awesome.
it's motivating, as a
Thank
fellow
you.
creator, it's motivating
that
to see
means so
people who
much.
can do stuff like that. And, I know the comedic space is not only very competitive, but it is a difficult one to kind of
it's
jump
super
into.
hard.
So
Yeah.
It's tough. Not only from a like funny standpoint, because you got to be funny. That's the whole point of it. Because I'm sure you don't have to do this as much anymore, but open mic nights, I'm sure, are tough to
They're
get
like
into.
soul crushing.
Yeah,
They're the
especially
worst.
if you're trying to work on a joke
Yeah.
and it might bomb because
Yeah.
your delivery was off that day.
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, it's hard.
Like when I
but-
tell him he's not funny, I have to console him
Yeah,
and
exactly.
hold him and
that's why I just have
think
my
it-
phone and no one to tell me otherwise.
Well, but I think it honestly helps
Yeah.
with like, because there's always online trolls,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah. No matter
always
what
have
you do.
them.
Yeah.
But like, I'm like, whatever. You're not in the same room as me.
Right.
Like, I've dealt with worse, so it helps with that a little bit. But yeah, no, listen. Comedy is not. I don't want to sit here and complain and be like, my life is so hard. I'm a comedian because it's the best job in the world. But it's definitely like. It's an emotional roller coaster. I feel bad for my husband sometimes because, like, I come in and I'm like, this video did amazing. I'm the best. And then, like, the next day I'm like, I should quit comedy. Nobody thinks I'm funny.
That's all of us. That's all content creators
Oh
feel
my
that
God.
way. I swear
Every
to God.
creative is just like,
Yeah.
and it's just this up and down and up and down. But
It's exactly how social media is designed
Oh,
to
it's
make us feel
wild.
that way. So
Yep.
we're always creating,
Always.
searching
Oh,
that
the
next
churn.
high,
The
that
churn.
next viral video. You know
It's
what I
so
mean?
wild.
So like when it comes to your jokes, when it comes to wanting to get to that punchline, like how do you structure jokes? Like how does that work? Like
Yeah.
do you pull from a person, something that happened around you, or do
Yeah.
you like? It seems like you're very organized.
Yeah.
So it seems that I don't know. I
yes and
like
no.
like I'm like 95% improv. I
Yeah.
like writing is my worst thing.
Yeah.
Not only because I can't spell, but I get hand cramps. I can't stand
I
it.
feel
so-
it. It's funny because on social, I'm 90% improv. I write down like bullets. I'm like, these are the 10 jokes I want to hit, and then I improv and edit it together.
Okay, cool.
In stand-up, I am like almost verbatim. Like now I improv more, but I have the jokes typed out to the word.
Right.
And then like, obviously you like play around a little bit, but there's not a ton of improv in there. So
Right.
again, they're two different things, but writing a joke, I get whenever I have any semblance of an idea and I don't even know what the joke is yet, but I'm like, that's kind of a funny thought, or like, oh, that's a weird thing that happened to me. Like maybe that's a funny story. I just have a running note in my phone that's like pages and pages and pages long of just like weird things that sometimes I'm like, what does that even mean? But sometimes I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. And then I'll sit down to write on it. And then sometimes like a joke will come to you fully formed, just like one where you're like, oh, that's a punchline.
Right.
And then you have to build around it. And sometimes I do a lot of like, I know what the setup is going to be, but I don't know the punchline, which is like great. So I'll be like, insert joke here, and I'll like get a structure, and then I'll be like, I'm trying to do this one joke about like right now about how complicated female friendship can be, where like you love them, but like they can also be toxic, whatever. And I know I want to do a metaphor. I know I want to do like female friendship is like, because that's a really like popular format of, if you watch stand up, you'll start to notice.
Yeah.
It's a lot of similes. It's like This is kind of like this, and that's a funny thing. And so I've done, it's like a helicopter ride, like where it's scary but beautiful and like good Instagram pictures. I'm like, I don't know if that's working. So I was like, it's like mushrooms. Some are good for you, some kill you, but like you don't know until you go on a trip. And then I'm like, I don't know if that's working either. So I try a bunch of, I think the mushrooms one works better than the helicopter. But I'm like, I'm not sold on it yet. So it's like trial and error.
Gotcha.
Sometimes when you write a joke in your office, you're like, oh, I know this is right. And sometimes you're like, we gotta try that on stage and see if anybody likes it. So it's a weird process.
Do you find that helpful? Like getting out and like kind of practicing?
You have to. Yeah. And I mean,
because the crowd's going to tell you what works and what doesn't, right?
Yeah, they really do. And you know, some people have this sort of like romanticized idea of like, to be a stand-up, you have to go up like 10 times a night. And I don't subscribe to that. Partially because coming from a theater background, being on stage is the most comfortable part to me. So I think my time is better spent writing. But once you think you have the jokes, you have to try them out and see, okay, did they, because sometimes they respond to things that you're like, oh, I didn't think that would get that big of a laugh. Or sometimes it's like the joke works, but like one word in the setup is off, or the cadence of how you say it, the timing, like, and you don't know that until you do it and it starts to become a little bit freer. Some people write on stage. They just like go up with an idea and just riff. I think that's impressive. I don't like to go on stage unless I have the joke fully written and memorized, because otherwise it's not, I don't get the feedback that's good enough for me to use. The feedback is, should have known your fucking jokes. Like, you know.
Yeah. So where do you draw your, where do you draw your inspiration from?
Life. My own life. Yeah.
Do you have,
like a favorite comedian or something?
I was going to say, do you have, like, if you could have like a round table of 3 or 4 comedians, who would you pick?
Great question. John Mulaney. I do.
Oh, I love John.
Him. He's just such a solid.
I don't know if I know that. I might have to
John
see.
Mulaney.
Oh,
if you saw him, you would know.
Yeah, I'm not very good with names, so
you would love him.
Okay.
He's smart. He's funny.
He's older, but he looks like he's 15.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he hasn't aged today. He's like Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
He's just,
love Paul Rudd.
He's the best.
Yeah.
Eliza Schlesinger, if you know her.
Love Eliza. I liked her stuff at the beginning of her specials. That was really good.
Oh my God. She has one of her first specials, I think. I don't know if it's her first or second. It's called Freezing Hot.
Yeah.
And I watched that, and that was the first time. It was still years before I did comedy, but I was like, oh, maybe I could do comedy. Is
that the one she's on the boat?
The boat.
She does in front of the military guys.
Yeah, no, it's a different one, but that's also a good one.
That's a good one, yeah. I love
but
that
she just
one.
like, what was cool about her is like she talked about an experience that I felt that I lived as just sort of this like kind of stereotypical girl. You know what I mean? Like it was cool to hear her. So I would definitely have her. Mike Birbiglia, he's like a storyteller. I like him.
Mike's good.
Nate Bargatze, he's hysterical and like the opposite. He's like so dry, which is like, if you guys watch my special, I'm like, like the opposite of dry. So I kind of like watching him. I feel like I'm not taking notes. When I watch other comics, I'm like, oh, the way they did that, like that's a good, like they're so professional. Maybe I should try to do more. Like I'm always researching the same way that you like would watch anybody that's doing the thing that you want to do and be like, okay, like I'm learning from you. But with him, our styles are so different. I feel like I'm just enjoying this comedy.
Yeah.
So that would be my round table.
I was going to say, can you like enjoy it sometimes when you watch it, or is it depending on the person, like their type of comedy? Okay, I don't do this, so I can enjoy it, but I do this, so I'm going to take notes, and I need to tune in here.
Yeah, no, I mean, I do definitely enjoy it, but it's hard to watch it and not, I know when the punchline's coming.
Yeah.
Because comedy, every once in a while, someone will fully surprise you, and then I'm like laughing out loud. And people always say, if you can make a comic laugh, then because it's a formula.
Yeah,
it's really, really structured. There are some people who do like totally alt comedy, and that's really cool. But like a traditional stand up, it's pretty formulaic, and I can tell that the punchline's going to come here, and I know it's going to be a play on words, or it's going to be a simile, or whatever it is, because I'm around it so much too. I'm around it because when you're on shows, comics don't always watch everybody, but you do see it, you know? And so I'm like, sometimes I'm like, no, I can't watch anymore. But like for the most part, people's sense of humors are very different. So it's like the same reason that like comedy movies, like, you know, somebody might like Step Brothers, somebody might like Bridesmaids, but they might not like the same movie. You know, I think people forget that just because a comedian doesn't tell your style of jokes doesn't mean they're a bad comedian.
Yeah,
right.
Sometimes there are bad comedians. Don't get me wrong. Like I've heard plenty of bad comedians in my time, but like I think especially like if you go watch a show and it's just like 6 comics, you don't know who's going to be on it. Somebody might come on and their jokes might be not relatable to you, or like they might have like a really dry style and you don't like that, or they might be like too many act outs and you're like, ugh, that's not what I came for. But like, to bring it back to TikTok again, what I like about TikTok is if you just create what you think is funny and follow your sense of humor, those people find you.
Right, your community will find you.
And that's,
Absolutely.
if you try to be funny to everyone, you're going to be funny to no one.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Just do your thing.
Now, I'm curious, and I mean, no disrespect. This is me learning here.
No, for sure.
What's it like being a woman in the comedy scene?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, when I was growing up, the only woman I ever really knew in stand-up was Lisa Lampanelli. And she was like so vulgar, like beyond vulgar. And I was young. So like that really was incredibly funny to me because like saying those vulgar things were, you know, when you're adolescent, you're like, oh, what? You can say that? And it's like, you know, you learn, and then it kind of became, the next was like Amy Schumer, you know, and so I'm just like curious, what's your experience like? Is it really like hyper competitive? Do you find it to be difficult? Like,
so I was actually thinking about this morning because you get asked this a lot, and I think the sort of stock answer is like, it's so much harder to be a woman, and it just is. But so I came up in New York and stand up, and I think I am the first generation of comics where it doesn't feel like, oh, we got to put a woman on the show, and there's one spot for a girl and you're all fighting and they don't want you on the show. And like because when I first started, if you were on a show, they'd be like, 2 back-to-back women, like what? And now it's like sometimes I'm on shows and it's like 7 women and 1 guy, and there's just more of us. And I have found that it's great. And I have actually found that for the most part, like really majority, male comics are really awesome to us, and they like us, and like we're not competitive with them, obviously, because like it's just different. We have different jokes, we're telling different things. And so I was always like, yeah, it's like I came in at the right time where like it's cool to be a woman in comedy, and there's like so much support. Then I put out a special on YouTube, and and you know, I'm used to hate, right? And I will respect if somebody has something to say where they're like, you know, if they're critiquing the joke, they're like, your accent is wrong or whatever it is, I'm like, okay, that's a fair comment. The amount of people that have come out to just be like, don't give women a microphone, women shouldn't be funny. And I'm floored because where I've been doing comedy, I don't see that. And like audiences are always like, cool, there's a guy, there's a girl, it's great. And just these amount of people that are like it's not critical of me. It's just like critical of the gender. And I'm like, I'm floored. I didn't know that was like so prevalent.
Insane.
You see it often on TikTok. I've become a bit of a scroller myself recently, and you see it all the time. And it's just, it's unbelievable. And it's again, now we're at the forefront of another thing to overcome in our society that's still so new that I'm saying to you, I'm acknowledging it, I'm seeing it, but right now I don't know what to do.
Exactly.
Because I spend my whole day in the comment section just fighting with people who are probably like young kids that thinks it was funny to make a rude comment. But
that's probably what it is.
Now, on the, I guess just to kind of add to that, when you're creating your jokes, do you think that there's a certain pressure being a woman? On top of that, is there also a part of you that feels like, you know, that most men, and this is me stereotyping here, but most men are going to be harder to crack because we're going to be standoffish towards a woman. So do you find yourself writing jokes that are more favored to the female scene that's there so that you can kind of win that crowd over? I'm just curious if those are things you take into consideration or have to think about.
So I think about it on social sometimes. I think about like, because it's been kind of crazy. I didn't think this would be the case, but my audience it's not fully 50-50, but there's a lot of men. And I was surprised in what I've found through the live shows is that it is so many couples, married couples, boyfriend, girlfriend, and they're like, because I'm doing sort of like a very relatable girl thing, these guys are often like, oh my God, that's my girlfriend. And a lot of times, sometimes I'll hear like a girl be like, oh my God, like I brought my boyfriend, we love you, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes what I hear is like, he started sending me your videos being like, this is what you do.
Literally, that's exactly how I felt watching your special. And when I watch, I'm like, I get this 100%.
And so I think it's not like, there are some comics that I love and listen to that are very much like about the female experience that like, I think might be harder to understand. In the same way that there are guys that talk about like guy things that I'm like, I just don't relate to this because I'm not a guy.
Right. But
then like a John Mulaney talks about just being a human, but then he talks about like being a married man, and I'm like, well, I know what that's like on the other side. So I think that like once people warm up to me and my energy, they're like here for it and they'll
Right.
find something.
Mm-hmm.
And there are definitely some jokes that like I'm like, this one's for the girls. Like I don't think the guys are totally gonna get this, but it's not. I do think that like for the most part, my humor, if you know a woman, you can relate to it because it's a little bit more sort of like using my experience as a proxy for like the whole experience of
Gotcha.
the silly stuff.
Well, I think you're doing a fantastic job. Like I said, your special was
Hell yeah.
phenomenal.
I thought it
I
was
think
awesome.
it's a round of applause for how hard you're working. And I had naturally assumed I had to ask, but I just assumed that it was difficult being a woman in that,
it is.
you know, in the industry. And you know, I can't imagine what you're going through, but we think you're doing a phenomenal job, and that's why we wanted to have you, you know, on with us today. So what we will do here is we will wrap it up with one of our concluding questions. Since you're not a football fan, we'll kind of seclude the sports stuff. But what we will ask you is to rank our New England states in order.
Oh, okay.
Favorite to least favorite.
Favorite to least favorite. Okay. Favorite first?
Yes.
Favorite to least favorite?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I gotta go. Okay, I'm actually gonna go Rhode Island as my favorite.
There we go. I had a feeling.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the episode.
Yeah, and then we're done. Okay, I'm gonna go Rhode Island, and then I gotta go Connecticut. I gotta go.
That's the highest
And my-
Connecticut's ever been.
Connecticut's ever been.
Highest Connecticut's ever been.
Ever gotten a medal.
I say this every time we ask this question. First and foremost, I never knew so many other New Englanders did not like Rhode Island.
Rhode Island?
Yeah, because this was our first, what I consider viral on our page, post.
Okay.
And it went for a while. And when I tell you 4, 5, and 6 was like Rhode Island, Connecticut, all in there.
Those
Trust me.
people are nuts.
That's what I said. But it was a lot of them. So I was like, I'm
I
just not
disagree.
going to hide in those comments. I'm just going to like
I was one of them, and I live here.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Well, no, you have it at 3. So, but no, go ahead. I'm
So,
sorry.
Okay, so I'm gonna go Rhode Island, Connecticut, Vermont. To be
Okay.
fair, those are all the states I've lived in. So like the bias is strong.
That's
Right.
fine.
But I did tell you that Vermont is prettier than Tuscany. So then, okay, so I haven't really spent any time in Maine, so I don't feel like super. But I've heard it's great, so maybe I'll put Maine next.
Okay.
And then listen, Massachusetts is great, but it's also like
It's Massachusetts. Yeah.
And then I'm gonna put New Hampshire last because I wanted to go to Dartmouth and they didn't let me in. So
Take that, Dartmouth.
yeah, exactly.
You rats.
Oh, that's
That's my
fantastic.
ranking.
Awesome. Well, please tell everyone where they can find your specials, stream it, and let everyone know your social platforms.
Yeah, my social platforms on everything are Shannon Fiedler 13, and the special is on YouTube. It's pinned to my page. You can find it. Go watch it. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok, and my website, shannonfiedler.com, for any upcoming shows if you want to come see me live.
Awesome. Shannon, thank you so much for taking the time to come and see us
you
today. We
guys.
really
Thank
appreciate it. And yeah. All right, folks, that is going to conclude episode 19
Flying by.
of the So New England podcast
Absolutely.
on RJ's birthday. Unbelievable, folks.
33 years young.
Well,
Clip
okay,
that out.
we'll
Please
talk
don't
about
let anyone
that.
know
Yeah,
that.
okay, all right. Remember, folks, life's better in New England.